This is the Misdirected Mark Podcast, a podcast about gaming, game mastering, and entertaining you, our listeners. We are explicit, you have been warned, and I'd like to thank Mike Willard for letting us use his music on our show. Now let's pick up those mics and get on with this thing.
Okay, so I turned to the men with the hoods. You asked us to come here. What do you want?
Yeah, we did the thing with the water and the 5 stones and even said the words.
Mostly.
Right, mostly.
The hooded men mutter to one another, then hold their lanterns aloft. One lays a great tome upon the flat stone in front of you, opening it to an illuminated page.
Damn, that is a big book.
The leader of the hooded men points to the painting on the page, showing 2 figures that look disturbingly like the 2 of you.
Hey, look, that's us.
The leader raises his hands. Long have we waited for this moment. The stars are right. The moons and planets have aligned. The signs and portents have prophesied this day. And now fate has brought you to us. And so, what did you say your names were?
Chad.
Aaron.
The hooded man seems confused as he looks at the book again. And so you, Chad and Karen, you will be the ones to face Dark Deathmort, Flayer of Flesh, Devourer of Bones, and Drinker of Blood.
Cool. Prophecy, Flayer dude, right, okay. Sounds like a happening dude. Do we get paid for this, or are you at least going to comp our parking? Do you validate?
Something just froze on my end.
He's back-ish, maybe.
All right. Yes. But we have a couple of war horses out by the entrance of the henge. Don't look at me like that. You chose us. And with that, after the freeze, welcome to the 453rd episode of the Mr. Mark Podcast. Tonight, we continue our discussion of character backgrounds by workshopping the Chosen One in tabletop role-playing games. Along the way, we'll take your suggestions, comments, and examples live from the chat room for life on Twitch before jumping into the after show. But first, my name is Jerry.
My name is Phil.
And I am Old Man Logan. And,
hey, you're back.
Yeah, apologies to everyone. There was a brief glitch for some reason, and the stream disconnected on my end.
Okay.
So, unfortunately,
Are we back?
Rob may have to stitch a
we're
little
back.
bit of the audio at the beginning, but we'll see. All right. So, as we are now ready to do the thing, let's go through our little temperature check, see how everybody's feeling. We'll go to Phil, because I know Phil is not exactly feeling peak.
Yeah. Bob's gone. Bob, you keep going all.
So that wasn't on my end then. Okay, good.
Really?
No, it's definitely Bob because I'm hearing it as well.
Okay.
Anyway, as for me, I'm under the weather, actually. My kids are now 2 for 2. They not only gave me COVID, but they've also passed along a head cold to me this week. I came down with it Sunday, knocked me out of the game. I slept for 2.5 hours Sunday afternoon. I woke up at 6. And I was like, oh, we can't play tonight. I'm dead. I've been off yesterday. I had an awful night's sleep. I didn't have any decongestant Sunday night, and the CPAP was not cutting it for clearing my air passage. So I woke up every hour on the hour Monday.
Ooh.
I slept better last night, and I'm hopped up on Sudafed right now. It doesn't sound like it because I should be a little more excited, but trust me, this is just keeping me from falling asleep. So I'm not feeling fantastic. Try to take it easy on my voice tonight, and gonna hopefully get through this. Hopefully one more day at home, I should be through this. I had the big sneezy phase today.
Ooh.
Which for me is usually the quarter 3 moment, like where we start to turn the tide on this thing. So I don't feel fantastic yet, but I'm sneezing a lot. Hopefully not tonight on the show. And hopefully kind of moving this thing out. Physically, other than that, I'm fine. But man, I haven't had a head cold since 2019, and man, is this not fun? I liked it. I liked not having colds. Like this, like, I mean, this is nothing. Don't get me wrong. Like, this is just a head cold, but still, like, ugh. Anyway, Jerry, how about you?
Pretty good for the most part. I did not get a head cold this weekend.
I don't know. You hung out with me on Saturday night, so
you have to. Head colds don't last. I mean, I might have had a head cold, but I probably slept it off because of my allergies and sinuses and the fact I'll go through a head cold in like 4 hours. My body doesn't do that kind of thing. I get other sicknesses, but not generally head colds. They don't normally last for more than about half a day. But no, I've been good. Just kind of doing stuff at work. It's been very, very busy. So I've just been working like till 6, 7 o'clock every night and then rushing back home again, which other than that, I'm doing pretty well. I'm feeling okay. Just a little exhausted. Bob?
Yeah, I am. I'm doing pretty good. Just trying to keep up with some exercises to keep my neck from getting cranky again. A lot of my sinus troubles come from my neck getting out of whack. So when I start getting all congested and drippy and stuff, I'm like, wait a minute, is it a cold? Let's see. No, my neck's out of whack. So other than that, feeling pretty good. So let's roll on into the one thing. My one thing for this week is dual brick therapy. I had actually forgotten how much I missed or how much I enjoyed playing Minecraft. And now that we've got the new pack going, that virtual brick therapy is much needed, very enjoyable. And then I supplemented that with some Lego brick therapy, some physical bricks. I got the remainder of the set of Marvel minifigs that they put out. And I also bought the set from What If, Captain Carter What If, with the Hydra Stomper and the Red Skull and Captain Carter. So I put those all together.
That Hydra Stomper is pretty cool, actually.
Yeah, it is pretty cool. So yeah, doing the brick therapy and just kind of letting everything go. So that's me. What about you, Jerry?
We went this weekend. Chris had a little movie party at his house, and about 8 of us got together and watched the new Dune movie, and it was a lot of fun. I'm one of the people that enjoyed the original David Lynch version. It's not amazing, but I enjoyed it for what it was. It was fun, and this was a much more serious, beautiful movie. It's not fast-paced, but it's got really good characters and some beautiful vistas and scenery, and gives you the real feel of it being a totally alien futuristic storyline. And I liked it a lot. I'm looking forward to the second one and whatever else they decide to do with it. And goddamn, does Timothée Chalamet look like a young Oscar Isaac. There are some scenes in that movie where he turns the camera and he looks like Leto's son, and just all the acting is top notch. The acting is over the top and in a good way, and it's a lot of fun. But holy crap, does that kid look like Oscar Isaac's son? They should cast those two together with more stuff. That's me. Phil?
Yeah. So while laid up, I decided to start watching Squid Game on Netflix. I mean, that's not super new, but I got around to watching it. I'm a little over halfway through the series. I had to take a break. I got to like a really emotional episode and was like, yeah, I'm going to have to stop watching for a little bit.
Which game was that?
The Marbles.
Oh, yeah. Yes.
I was not okay after that game. Like, I was not okay.
Yeah.
I don't want to give spoilers away in case people are watching it, but I was very much like, I finished that episode and I was like, I'm going to need to take a break and watch something lighter for a little while.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's going to take me another day or two before I can re-engage it.
Mm-hmm.
I do want to say this though, because I've seen people mention this on the internet. This show is not for everybody.
No.
It is dark. It is, I'm not even sure exactly where to pin it. I mean, there are horrors of capitalism in it. It is definitely dark. It is violent. It does not show humanity in its best light.
Nope.
Far from it. So I've seen people on the internet be like, do I need to watch the show? No, you do not need to watch this show. Like, you should watch the show if those kinds of things appeal to you, which those kinds of things. I mean, I like dark stories and I like crime stories and things like that. So like, I was definitely in for giving it a shot. But I will tell you that this thing will punch you in the feels. Like, you will like characters and you will not be happy like before this show's done. But yeah, that was but I will say this. It's a very interesting story. It's super creepy. It's well shot. It's well acted. The characters in it are very good. Like, you will like and connect to these characters, which is at some points worse because of the nature of the story. So I have a lot of feels about it. I'm enjoying it, but by no means would I like blanket recommend it to people. I would very much recommend it with a lot of caveats.
And the main characters reminded me a lot of characters from, if you've seen other Korean shows like Train to Busan or The Host or the original Korean Old Boy. That kind of thing where the main characters are really interesting, but at least initially they're not very likable when you first meet them, a lot of them.
Yeah.
And they grow on you, and they're very complicated characters.
Yeah. It is definitely well written. Like, the characters, and they're covering a lot of ground in this thing. I mean, like, there's a lot of material that has to get covered in each episode, and they do a really good job of getting through it. But I'm telling you, I am not right after that episode. Like, I am not okay. I knew fairly quickly what was on the line. And I was like, oh man, like, and then that episode ended and I was like, oh, I gotta just turn it off for a little bit. Like, gonna need a break. Gonna need a break before I can get through the last 4 episodes. I will finish it though, but it's definitely a thing.
I love the surrealness of the world and the games and the color schemes they chose and everything else.
It's disturbingly surreal, right? So it's the whole, like, it's purposely made to make you very uncomfortable. Like, and it goes to exceptionally good lengths to do it. So it is definitely, like I said, it is a show you need to be uncomfortable while watching. And if you're not in for that, you should totally not watch this.
And if you're not uncomfortable watching it, get help.
That would also be if you are in any, if by chance you are excited while watching it, you might also want to check with a counselor. All right, anyway, that's me.
All right, I don't believe we have any announcements.
Oh boy. See what's coming up.
Yeah, you ready for a kind of a I'm expecting like a 50% effort here. Don't go like
hang
up
on,
above 75.
Let me pre-water.
Get yourself
if you want,
a drink.
I can do it if you can, Phil. So
I'm gonna give it a go.
Go for it. One take, right. Phil. Go for it.
Workshop! It's the chosen one! You have been selected by the powers that be to change the fate of the world, and now you've got to do it without wrecking your campaign, and we're going to talk all about it tonight here in the workshop.
And don't suck.
Well
done, Phil.
So,
well done.
Well done. You're still there with us. Man, that was giving it your all. So we're going to be talking about the chosen one. We debated a little bit about the best way to address this and decided it was a workshopping the GMs better than just looking at it as a background check. So tonight we're going to look at the chosen one as part of a whole campaign framework on how to get them into your games, how to work with them, and how to play them. And we may come back to a future episode and talk about them as a background check and give more advice for players. But tonight we're going to focus mostly on GMs and characters.
All right. And of course, to get this kicked off, Phil, what kind of definitions do we have after I hit this button?
Behold, you are in the presence of Definition Panda.
Oh, hey, I'm back. How's it going? All right. Our definition for tonight, of course, we've got to define the chosen one, to which we go to TV Tropes, one of my favorite websites. which defines the chosen one as these characters have been chosen by some force, and they are now the only ones capable of resolving the plot. We'll pick apart this a little.
Yeah.
To kind of get into it. But I think, again, TV Tropes is made for TV. We're going to have to kind of tease it out a little to get to what that means in an RPG. But let's do that, right? So the chosen one is a person or persons. There is some problem in the universe that needs to be resolved. And for reasons known or unknown, the chosen one is the person who can resolve that problem. In whatever way. We may not even know that up front. We may know it up front. We may not. The chosen one may or may not know that they're special, right? They could just have a normal life when all of a sudden they're swept up by events and, suddenly find out they're the chosen one. Sometimes these people have hints about it, right? Like they might feel special or different, but still might not know, that they're the chosen one. Or it could be the exact opposite. They could be somebody who's trained their whole lives for this problem, like to solve this problem, right? They might have gone through, rigorous training and preparation and everything else for this moment. Okay. There's a force, something, someone, whatever it is that has selected this person as the chosen one. The person themselves doesn't get to say they're the chosen one. Although that is a trope in a lot of chosen one stories, is people either saying they are or aren't the chosen one. The force could be something tangible, right? It could be a prophet. It could be a legend or prophecy that was told a long time ago. It could be divine, celestial. It could be all sorts of things, but usually it's not anything typically ordinary because let's face it, the chosen one is kind of a, somewhat mythical kind of framework. So the power, the force that has chosen them is usually, something bigger than us. And then we've got our problem, our challenge, or enemy that the chosen one has to defeat. It could be any number of things. It could be sealing a portal. It could be killing a bad guy, slaying a monster. We got a lot of options for what it is. Whatever it is, it's going to be some sort of challenge / confrontation. And the stakes are also going to be incredibly high. Like the chosen one isn't like the person who decides, what you'll have for dinner. The chosen one is going to solve some sort of world affecting, universe affecting problem. This problem may already exist, right? It could be an existing curse or an occupying force that is already present that the chosen one is going to remove. Or the chosen one could be there to stop something from manifesting, right? So if the chosen one does their thing to prevent some sort of terrible damage, death, or despair. Jared, did I miss anything in that in terms of?
You got it.
Okay, in terms of pulling it together for an RPG?
I think, and it could be more than one, and you can have even successions of them, which we'll talk about a little bit later on.
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
yeah, chosen one might not always be the person who actually finishes it.
Yep.
They might. Yep. Yeah, exactly.
They might facilitate something.
Exactly. Jared, tell me about because there's no shortage of chosen ones in media. So, what did we pull together for tonight?
We've got a bunch of them. The first one we're going to talk about, just mentioned at least, we're not going to talk about it, mentioned Buffy Summers from Buffy the Vampire Slayer, either the movie or the TV series. Neo for The Matrix. Kale from the movie Titan AE.
I put that one in for Bob.
I figured that.
That one was that one was strictly for Bob.
But it fits.
Yeah.
I mean, talk about reluctant hero. Alex Rogan from The Last Starfighter. Billy Batson from the Captain Marvel series Shazam. Frodo from Lord of the Rings. Lilu from The Fifth Element. Leroy Green from The Last Dragon. There's your trained his entire life for it.
I had quite a bit of fun watching clips of The Last Dragon, the end fight.
Yep.
Just to kind of warm up, as I was prepping the notes.
Who doesn't like a little show enough? The Shogun of
The
Harlem.
Shogun of Harlem. Ash from the Evil Dead movies, especially Evil Dead 2 and 3. Chandler Jarrell from The Golden Child, literally spoken of as the Chosen One. As Phil pointed out, Paul Atreides from Dune. I was wondering, Hal Jordan of the Green Lantern Corps, because the Green Lantern Corps, you're only given it if you're chosen to kind of succeed than the person in front of them.
Yeah,
There's a lot of them, but they're powerful.
Doesn't the ring choose you?
I think so.
Yes, traditionally
depends
the
on
ring
the arc.
chooses the bearer.
Yeah. So yes.
Okay.
So I guess, all right. So that's interesting because in our definition, it fits some of our definition, right? So it fits the definition that it was selected by higher power. The problem part is for Hal Jordan is very vague, right? Like to protect the universe. So yeah, probably Hal Jordan.
It's on the loose end.
Guy Gardner.
I don't know if Guy Gardner counts.
Guy Gardner's like the anomaly. Like if you're looking for the
anti-hero.
bug in the software, Guy Gardner's the proof that like
This is
something's
true.
wrong with the selection criteria.
I mean, a Green Lantern in general is on the weak side of it because there's like 7,000 Green Lanterns across the universe.
The
I have
universe
no
is
idea what
big,
the real
though.
number is.
You know,
Yeah.
they're covering a lot of
there's
space.
a shit ton
Yeah.
of Green Lanterns.
Yes.
Yeah. Yep. Hal Jordan, though, I think because he had more willpower than a lot of the others and was able to stand up against forces and foes that the other lanterns couldn't, even as groups.
Who's the last lantern that I'm thinking of? Not
Not Kyle Redder,
nah. I like Kyle
John
Stewart.
John Stewart.
Yes, John Stewart from the cartoon. That's
Yeah,
like my
he's like 2 or 3 lanterns back.
yeah. I liked him in Justice League.
He's
That's
good. Oh, yes, very much so. So that's a short list. You can add your own, and feel free to toss us some of your ideas.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. So the Chosen One is not just a character type, but it's also a story framework. So now that we understand a little bit more about what the definition and everything is, Jerry, what does a simple version of the story arc look like?
All right. The Chosen One story arc is going to have lots of different variations, but the most common one that's going to be familiar to a lot of us is the hero's journey. Even if you're not familiar with the term itself, you're probably familiar with it as a literary structure because it's prevalent in a lot of media. And it was summed up wonderfully by Joseph Campbell. He described the hero's journey in a particular way. Phil, can you tell us how he described it?
Hero ventures forth from the world of common day into a region of supernatural wonder. Fabulous forces are there encountered, and a decisive victory is won. The hero comes back from this mysterious adventure with the power to bestow boons on his fellow man.
Now, Campbell decomposed this into like 17 steps, which is much too much for us to cover here. And other scholars have taken those and grouped them differently. And there's probably a number of different Wikipedia articles to go over, but using that as source material, here's a framework of a story arc that could be for a typical Chosen One.
Sure. So the first part is the call to adventure, right? An ordinary life is interrupted with a need to undertake some kind of adventure.
And the next step is generally the hero refuses the call. Often the Chosen One refuses the call entirely and attempts to just keep their normal life.
Yep. Then there's the crossing of the threshold, the point where the hero leaves their ordinary world and enters the extraordinary world.
And that's going to lead to the road of trials, which is going to be a series of tests or challenges or adventures that test the hero.
Yep. And then there's transformation, enlightenment, right? The moment where the Chosen One unlocks the source of their power and realizes they can confront the danger.
And then they confront that danger. They face the danger fully in confrontation, embodying their role as the Chosen One.
And then realization of their role in the universe. After defeating the danger, they come to realize their role in the universe, which could be like retirement, right? Like now that my job's done, I can go forth and live like a simple life. Or it could be a new calling. Like now that this is done, there is more evil in the world to be confronted. I know what I must do.
And of course, there's going to be variations of versions on the structure. They're going to take the framework and make it work over a bunch of different genres and stories. It might not be supernatural. It might just be more unusual than what they're used to dealing with. But it can be any variation on this.
I can fit like 10 movies into that structure.
Yeah.
Like as we were talking about, I'm like, that's The Matrix. Somebody's got it. One of you wrote in the notes, "This is the last Starfighter." Absolutely, right?
I'm
like,
still going to argue that.
It's there's so the hero's journey, whether it's a chosen one or not, the hero's journey is a very common structure.
Yes,
Yep.
absolutely. All right, so clearly, Phil, there's an appeal to the story. Okay, why do you think it's so popular?
Right, little armchair psychology. Right, by no means am I an expert in any of this, but I'll share my thoughts on it. I think the appeal of the chosen one, right, is the idea that there's someone like ourselves, somebody who's just ordinary, living like a regular life, that finds out that they're not ordinary. Right, they actually find out they're quite extraordinary. I think that appeals to us, right? A lot of, in our daydreams, in our Ralph Phillip-like moments for you Warner Brother fans, in our Ralph Phillip-like moments, we have daydreams of, being extraordinary. It is the idea that
who is Ralph Phillips?
Ralph Phillips is a cartoon character from Warner Brothers. He was a kid that was daydreaming in school, and it's a classic cartoon.
Yes,
Ralph Phillips.
Yes, thank you.
Yes.
It's
a very obscure. There's only like two Ralph Phillips Warner Brother cartoons. They would just show up in the medley of cartoons from time to time. Anyway, I think it's also the idea that like our ordinary world can be interrupted by great adventure, right? Like our day-to-day, going to work, going to the grocery store, that kind of thing, and all of a sudden like to find out like, oh no, like there is a, like you are needed. There's a great adventure that awaits you. Like that's Neo, right? In the beginning, that's Mr. Anderson, right? Like, he's like in his office in his cube and suddenly finds out like, he's part of something much bigger. To find out that we're not ordinary, we're somebody special, right? That we're going to save the world. We're going to make like a big impact, right? Like that's appealing to a lot of people. And, it's just in part of it, it's because it's just in contrast to what is really, our boring day-to-day lives. I mean, if most of us, if we're lucky, live pretty boring lives. Hell, it's probably the reason a lot of us play role-playing games, right? Is because we have like pretty mundane lives and it gives us a chance to do something, to play something greater than that. I also think that there's an appeal in watching a character grow into their destiny. Right. Watching the character who like refuses the call, like, no, I can't possibly, that's way too much of an adventure. Seeing their reaction the first time they glimpse the other world. The first time Frodo leaves the Shire, that kind of thing. We watch them struggle to embrace their destiny. We see the transformation, right? We'll talk about it later in the thing, but like Neo's transformation in the Matrix, I just love, right? Like I could watch it over and over.
Yep.
And then we finally see evil vanquished, right? And I think that appeals to us, right? Like it's such a powerful, I guess, story, right? Like it just watching those things, and even just kind of, like I said, just embodying them, right? Thinking about like that, like if it could be that ordinary person, it could be me, that kind of thing.
True.
And I think based on the sheer number of stories in the world, right, people find this framework appealing. Like there's no shortage of chosen one stories in almost any media.
True facts. Yeah, movies and other scripted media certainly make for good chosen one stories. But as we know, RPGs are far less predictable. So, Jerry, what are the challenges in doing a chosen one story arc in our games?
All right. There's some pitfalls, but most of them are going to be avoidable if we take some time to prep for them. So we're going to talk about the pitfalls now, and then we're going to talk about ways to set up a good arc for the role-playing game. But the main problems of the chosen one arc come down to two things: the unpredictability of dice and the length of time it takes to run a full campaign. Because RPGs often have a randomizer that helps determine the outcome of actions. But this conflicts with the media where the actions in a story or movie are going to be predetermined.
Yeah, right. So like a writer of a story decides when a chosen one succeeds, fails, how much or how little they're harmed in the course of, the narrative. RPGs put most of that fate often in dice, both in the hands of the players and in the hands of the GM.
This is going to create several situations that can run counter to how we see this chosen one portrayed in other media. And this is going to present two different problems.
right? So the first one is the chosen one could just be killed, and killed in an anticlimactic way before the final confrontation even occurs.
Had that happen. This is a big problem if you have a chosen one story, and one that as a GM you need to figure out how you're going to deal with. Is a new chosen one going to be selected? Do you bring the chosen one back from the dead? What do you do?
Yeah. The other one is that, in the big confrontation, the chosen one fails. They fail to vanquish the evil, stop the ritual, like whatever. Like they fail.
Mm-hmm. Excuse me. This is a big problem with the chosen one story. If your evil requires a skill check, what are you going to do if they fail the roll? If your evil needs to be fought, what if it's a night where the chosen one just can't hit or can't touch it? And if you're the GM, are you going to fudge the rolls? Either set up the mechanics that these rolls are impossible to fail? What are you going to do if the chosen one fails to vanquish that evil?
Yeah. And all of this kind of goes down to how are you going to handle failure when it comes to the chosen one, when that's a player in the group of players.
So you need to know as a GM what you're willing to do. Are you going to interfere? Are you going to not call for rolls? Are you going to make the rolls nearly impossible to fail? You absolutely have to have a plan in place, though, for what to do if the chosen one dies. Write it down, put it in your GMing notes, and be prepared for it in case it happens.
Yeah. The next issue that you're going to have of hanging a major, the next issue you have is hanging a major plot line on one player, right? I think we all know where this is going, right? What if the player leaves the game, right? Don't worry about what if the player misses a game, right? That happens to every group, right? You just postpone or have a flashback that session. That's not a problem. But what I'm talking about is you have a chosen one, and halfway into the campaign, they have a change in work schedule and can no longer game. Right? If your whole campaign was centered on this plot, you're stuck.
Yep.
Right? Which is why see above tip about having a plan if the chosen one dies.
Yep. And lastly, in most of the media, the chosen one's a main character of the story. But in an RPG, they're giving characters just one character a troop. So you need to be able to share the spotlight among all the characters, make sure the chosen one's arc and their time pursuing it doesn't overshadow the rest of the group. And this is going to get harder and harder the further you get into the story. Even the writers of Buffy had to make other characters more interesting over time.
Yeah, I mean, this was like it was they did a good job of it. I don't think they ham-fisted it in any way, but all the other characters had to get more interesting the further we got in. We had to get slowing
Willow
down.
And
Yep.
Yeah, Willow had to get into magic, and Xander had that whole other life thing from that episode where he was like the army dude.
They had a Halloween episode with the Halloween costumes, making them actually that. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, they had to upgrade the Scooby Gang in multiple ways to keep the whole thing viable as the show went along. All right, so there's obviously some challenges, but Jerry said these are solvable problems.
Mm-hmm.
So Phil, if we want to do a chosen one in an RPG, what are some ways to make it work?
Well, we are literally just a few steps behind Professor Fox, as I noticed Professor Fox's question in the chat room. So let me get to it right away. Right, building off of some of the things that we just talked about. How do we avoid these problems? First tip: don't have a chosen one. Have chosen ones. Right? Don't structure the campaign on one character being the one. Have the whole party be the one. Right? This solves just this one change solves so many problems with the chosen one structure.
First, the spotlight problem is going to be solved because everybody's going to be in the spotlight. They're all equally important.
Second, if a player leaves your game, the rest of the party is still the one.
Next, if a few of the party members die, the group's going to keep going on. You just add more people back to it again.
And finally, in the final battle, whatever this final challenge is, the whole party is going to be involved. So there'll be people who are better suited for certain things. There'll be people who can support, give aid, help a die roll. Like you have the whole party working on it instead of just one person.
Mm-hmm.
Overall, this one change is the best way to make the Chosen One resilient as a campaign structure.
And you still think about how to handle character death, but it's not going to be nearly as tricky. First, you need to figure out, can a new person join the group also become one of the ones? Is there a ritual for that? Was it always destined to be that way? I had that happen in a fantasy trip campaign that I was playing in, where the infamous one where I played two characters, one secretly. And I occasionally had to take over as GM when the GM would duck out for a little while. And one of the ways we dealt with that was that one of the characters had a book that they'd stolen from the group of people who had the prophecy that supposedly talked about the characters in there. And we just, as was mentioned, we just kept it very vague. The party was the chosen ones. The clues that pointed to the party definitely pointed to those characters, but could also be interpreted to, the elf out of time. Well, that's this character here. But if another elf shows up, they could also be out of time. Maybe they're from a different time period. Maybe they're dying and they're almost out of time, whatever. Keeping those prophecies vague made a big difference and allowed us to keep swapping characters in and out. Because by the time we got to the end of that campaign, I was the only player who'd been there since the beginning. The other 15 were other characters. So
your prophecy should not have named characters in it.
Yeah.
That's probably also a thing we should.
John Smith, you are the chosen one. It's like, no, like some dude who was born under the sign of fire. Who
correct?
I mean, that's literally the plot of Doom, which is that there are several prophecies that point to a particular character called by different things by different people, and some of them think that Paul Atreides may be the chosen one. Some don't. Some think that he's one of many who could be the chosen one. I mean, that's part of the plot of the Bene Gesserit, is that they're trying to make multiple chosen ones so that one of them survives and completes the prophecy. You could have all of that in there. And love or hate that plot. That's one way you can handle it, is you can have multiple chosen ones. The Wheel of Time series with Brad Del Thor, The Dragon Reborn. Part of that is that there's people running around trying to make fake chosen ones or trying to force the prophecy onto other people. That's all things you can steal from to push things in there and have, well, maybe the prophecy was wrong. When they said red hair, maybe they just meant somebody who, got a bad cut on their scalp and now they're always bleeding, whatever you want to put in there. Just work it out. Vagueness
is your friend when it comes to prophecies. But yeah, you will definitely need to know, if you're making it the group and you lose a character, you do need to decide, especially if the group has any kind of special power, bonus or whatever, do new players get folded into that, and how would that work, kind of thing. Okay. If you're going to stick with a single character as the one, not my choice, but you might feel strongly that you want the one. My next piece of advice is don't tell them at the start of the campaign. They don't have to start the campaign as the chosen one. You can just bring it up later in a story arc, right? You can just reveal it a session or two before the big battle, as just part of a story arc. Oh, by the way,
surprise!
Turns out, Bob's the chosen one.
What?
Right? Because you can then Jerry, what's the deal here? What does it get us if we don't start our campaign by revealing the person as the one?
Well, it's the obvious thing that if you do it late enough in the story, if a player comes or goes, you don't risk losing that key player. You still have to address the issue of what to do if they die, even if that's filed out and roll crappy. These things are going to happen, but you can still have some guidelines in there. So
yeah. I think it also addresses the spotlight issue, right? Because if your chosen one is only going to be the chosen one for a couple of sessions, then people will tolerate the spotlight being on that character for a couple sessions and then it going back to normal. It's much worse if you start the campaign as I am the chosen one, and then especially if the GM's trying to center a whole campaign around that.
Remind me to tell you in the after show the little story about what happens when the chosen one is an NPC and the player characters kill them off deliberately.
Make your chosen one likable is
yes. but we'll get to that.
Yeah. I don't know. Can you think of any other tips? I mean, the big one here is really just make the party the chosen one. Like you really save yourself. Like I can't, like you just save yourself so much hassle by going from character to party.
And keep the goal vague. If this chosen one is the one, don't say they're the one who will kill the great evil. Have, the chosen one is the one who will,
bring darkness upon the land,
or free the land from darkness, or lead. This chosen one will lead the people to a new way of stopping the great evil one. Well, if they die along the way, they still led the party that far. That still qualifies.
Sure.
Use those kinds of terms. Get good, and feel free. The last thing I'll tell you is, and this is always my favorite one: table source the party. As you start getting more and more stuff, ask them. So give me some vague examples of how you might qualify for this. Players, if you got good role players, they'll toss up all sorts of really fun vague things that will also be good character hooks later on. When in doubt, never be afraid to hand the reins back to the party for a few seconds to give them a chance to bring things in. So, yeah,
which I think goes hand in hand with also the idea that your prophecy, if you have one, no matter what structure you use, the more vague, the better. Until the end, it shouldn't be terribly vague right at the end, because at the end they have to do a thing. But you can just set them up with the knowledge of what they have to do right at the end. You can leave it vague all the way through and then just kind of drop that, the final piece of clarity, the final wise person, or the missing piece of the scripture, when they finally translate it, then, before the battle, figure out, what they need to do, kind of thing. But yeah, I think that helps. What that gives you, right, is it gives you a chance for creative interpretation. It leaves you as a GM, like, for instance, if you're very specific, like the players must, kill and remove the heart of the Dark One in order to restore peace to the land. Well, you've pretty much scripted that it can only be a battle. Yeah. But if you're like, they must, vanquish the Dark One back to his original realm, well, the players may come up with all sorts of other ideas besides just a straight up fight.
Yeah.
Right.
And if you've left yourself that wiggle room in your prophecy, then even if you were thinking all along, like, I'm going to make it a big combat scene, and then they're like, oh no, what if we did this? You're like, okay, well, that fits in, that fits under our prophecy. Sure. And then you have the room to rewrite it. So that's another, like, just having that vagueness. And all prophecies are vague, right? Like, part of the allure of the prophecy is figuring out the cryptic language, how it maps onto the real world stuff. So
the fun part.
Yeah, don't write that super clear.
No.
And you'll have a lot of wiggle room to mess around with.
So my question was, is Lone Star from Spaceballs the chosen one?
Couldn't tell you.
I feel
never
like
saw it.
He had the little amulet around his neck.
No, he totally is. He's totally the ridiculous, but yes.
Ridiculous is good. We like ridiculous.
Yes. Absolutely.
All right. So anyway, that's our overview of how to run the chosen one in your game. But first, we're going to take a break and check out the chat room. Bob's going to tell us about another show on the Misdirected Mark Network.
Yeah. So Bone, Stone, and Obsidian is a fine little show where Jesse and Robert take monthly deep dives into the Dark Sun setting and discuss it across all editions of D&D. Again, this is one of my what's the term I want? It's not a white whale, but it's a game that I have not gotten to play, a setting that I have not gotten to play that I would love to sit down and throw a character into. Just hasn't happened yet. Who knows? Maybe someday.
It's a lot of fun.
Yeah,
it's a lot of fun.
So yeah, the chat room is doing a fine job of twisting things like, removing the heart of the Dark Lord, The Heart of the Dark One, according to Andy, could be their main power source.
Sure.
Or Lemming 127 says, whomever the big bad guy loves could be removing his heart.
Yes.
Or the main fortress, or the villain's pet. There are plenty of ways that you can go, even if you screwed up a little bit and thought, oh, I made that a little too specific. It's like, did you?
Yeah.
I mean, it is definitely one of the tropes of the it is definitely one of the tropes of prophecies is well, I think it's this way, but then only to discover that it's really this way.
Yes.
Yeah.
Especially if it's like a 180. Like you really think it's going down this path over here. And it's like, whoa, it was like the complete opposite of that. And it still fits. It's like, okay, all right. I can dig it.
Yeah. Absolutely.
But yeah, if you vague it up, you not only give yourself a lot more flexibility, but you give the players more room to do their thing. Because players will surprise the hell out of you with the answers that they come up with to problems. And like you already said, it's like they have to vanquish the Dark Lord back to their domain or something like that, right? You get a party that could go in there and be like, we're going to compel him with a convincing argument of why they should just go home and leave this place. And they totally socially engineer the whole thing and basically have not contest. They have a conversation and they just convince him, yeah, this is totally not worth my effort. I'm going home.
Well, if your game is mechanized, right, you could, engage in a very dangerous duel of wits.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Or maybe they're going to craft a ritual.
Yeah.
I mean, players are great. The more you can just let players figure out the solution to the problem, the better.
I will say, so that the chat room can chew on this a little bit, there was a very colorful discussion before the show between Jerry and I about whether or not Alex Rogan really counts as a chosen one in The Last Starfighter. And I say either no or super on the fringe, because Alex Rogan wasn't the chosen one. Alex Rogan wasn't chosen to be the last Starfighter. Alex Rogan was one of many who passed the test on the video game and went off to join this campaign. He ended up being the only one left and saved everything, but he wasn't chosen to do that.
So this is an interesting point, because he runs, he basically decides he doesn't want to do it.
Yeah.
And then when he rejects it, everybody else gets killed. And then suddenly it's like, oh no, you're the last one left. It
hits a lot of the points, but to me, it's just on the edge there. It's like,
I'm going to go back to
how deliberate. It depends on how deliberate fate or that higher power has to be. The fact that he runs away and he's the last one left after the attack, is that fate has selected him as the last Starfighter? I understand your argument. Yeah. It is definitely a border. It is the tennis ball argument on the line, right?
I agree, but I still think he's chosen because of a number of other factors. I mean, he's the one who has the plans and the knowledge and the Earth skills that allow them to trick the Kodan Armada. He's not. He's one of many, but by many we mean there were 12 others, and that's it out of an entire galactic fleet. And he wasn't chosen. He's the only one that was chosen by the video game. The others, they talk about this, was one of Centauri's little scams that he was pulling off. So I agree, he's on the fringe, but I still think he qualifies because he hits all of the classifications, and he ends up being the one who saves the day when nobody else can. Because especially once they're all killed, he is the only one who can save them. After the rest of the starfighters die, he's it. Just him and Grigg in the modified Gunstar against the entire Kodan Armada.
He wasn't chosen to be the only one. There was supposed to be a whole bunch of them there.
No, the party is the 12 of them are the chosen ones.
I think you're putting a lot of emphasis on the chosen
set up,
part
though.
of it too.
We just went through a whole thing, a whole segment about why you use a party. All right, and this is like the Marine Corps, and then inside the Marine Corps you've got like a SEAL team. All right,
Well,
And
I mean, now you're just mixing branches.
Yeah.
Like
And
you're gonna get some of our friends in the armed forces all riled up here.
Green Berets are the Marines.
No,
Yes,
Green Berets are Army. SEALs are Navy.
No, Green Berets are Marines. Army is Airborne Rangers. Army Airborne Rangers. Marines are Green Berets. Navy SEALs, and I don't know if
Green Berets.
Yeah.
All right, hang on.
Marines. Yeah, look it up.
Oh man.
Because of what happened during the war in Kuwait, they had to combine the three into one unit because the Navy had the best recon, the Marines had the best ground forces, and the Army had the best gunships. They had to make one special forces the first time.
I'm gonna not venture any deeper into this. This is not my expertise.
All right, we probably shouldn't get too far off the beaten path, too.
I'm more than certain that a couple of our listeners will straighten us all out when this is
Berets
done.
are in the Army. Okay.
All right. So, jumping back into...
I
just did the thing where I kind of half-clapped. Damn it. Sorry, Rob.
I stand corrected. I've been corrected. Apparently the Green Berets are the Army Special Forces.
All right. Well, there we go. Okay. So jumping back into the topic, we're going to finish the discussion with the roundtable, of course, as we do.
Mm-hmm.
Phil, what's our first question?
This one's an easy one. Favorite chosen one in any story in media?
Well, I think I'm going to pick Flynn from Tron.
Nice.
He gets thrown in against his will, doesn't really know what's going on, and he's that one that I talked about where he doesn't actually defeat the bad guy himself. He facilitates the way that Tron could defeat the bad guy, but without Flynn, Tron doesn't get anywhere near the Master Control program. Flynn is there. Flynn kind of drives the story for most of it, putting Tron in the way eventually, and it goes from there. So I just like Flynn. I've always liked Tron. I've always thought Jeff Bridges did a great job of playing the kind of hapless hero. Kind of enjoying his own video games when he realized that he's in a world he created, basically, and goes from there.
Cool.
Bob?
Yeah, so I picked Anakin Skywalker, and there's some layering here because in the prequels, I found Anakin to be a real whiny bitch, but the overall story, it's clearly a chosen one story, obviously. Obi-Wan laments the fact that Anakin theoretically, per Obi-Wan, fucks up the prophecy by, like, you were the chosen one. You were supposed to bring balance to the Force. And it's right there in front of them the whole time. And it still boggles me to this day that none of these Jedi can put two and two together and go, there's like 800 of us and there's 2 Sith. How do you balance that? Kill the fucking Jedi. Like, come on, guys. It was right there in front of you. Like, it was going to go poorly. But overall, I think, the whole arc is very interesting. And that's the one I chose. Phil's got a good one.
I went with Neo from The Matrix. I love the first Matrix movie a whole bunch. Easily my top 5 movies. And you see the whole chosen one arc in that first movie, right?
Oh, yeah.
Like you see the whole thing with Neo.
I watched the second one last night. So.
Yeah. So I like the second one. The second one and the third one are okay, but that first one is so unbelievably classic. And his transformation starts in the subway scene.
Yep.
Right. It doesn't finish in the subway scene, but his transformation starts. And it's really funny because it's somewhat heavy-handed because you've got Morpheus basically like narrating, right?
Yeah,
like what's happening,
to believe.
right? He's starting to believe, right? Like, but it's great. And it's just like, I mean, it's that movie's so stylish, right? It looks so good. After Smith kicks him down the way and he stands back up and he does that flex where the dust comes off of him, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like it's so good. But even then in that, it's really interesting because in the end of that fight, Smith jumps on Neo and puts him on the train tracks.
Yep.
and calls him Mr. Anderson.
Yep.
Right. And his last line before he defeats Smith in that battle is that he says, "My name is Neo." Right. It's his transformation.
Yep.
Right. Like he's almost there. And then obviously the hallway scene in the hotel is the final transformation where he realizes that, you know, he has all that, like he has the power now to defeat them.
And I was very happy that the Wachowskis threw us that little misdirect where he gets shot.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And he stumbles back against the wall and he slumps down and you're like, what? No, he's the chosen one. And you get Morpheus's face like, what? And then you get that moment where he's like, no, it's all good.
Well, it cuts over to Trinity, right?
Yep.
So Trinity's crying and she's like, tells him he's got to, like, you know, this can't be it.
Yep.
Right. And then finally, like, he stands up, and that moment when he stands up, right? The music, and
he gives that little flex and the walls go.
It's so good,
and
right? Like,
and when the agents suddenly realize, shit.
Yes,
we're in
they're just like,
quick,
they're just
fill
like,
him full of bullets.
Just puts his hand up and stops all the. He takes one out of the air, looks at it, and drops it. So good.
Very good.
Yeah, Neo is probably one of my favorite all time Chosen One stories.
Cool. What's the next question?
Thank you for the chat. Well, thank you for the chat room for correcting me. They are correct. I was wrong. The Marines are not part of the Green Berets are not part of the Marines. They are part of the Army. So thank you for that correction. Our chat room, as always, is giving us good information.
Yay.
So, question 2: have you ever played or run a Chosen One story in a game?
I wrote Bob's answer.
Yeah, and I was like, yes, that's clearly where we would have gone. So in Phil's Iron Heroes campaign, I played a character who was the Vessel, and it did not start out that I was the chosen one. There was I made some choices when I created my character because I was just goofing around. There's a story here. I won't drag it out, but the short version is that I didn't start out as the chosen one, and then partway through Phil was like, "Oh yeah, this is where we're gonna go with this," and then he revealed it to me, and I was like, "Oh, you magnificent bastard!"
And actually, the chosen one was like only supposed to in the beginning to be for a story arc.
Yeah.
Then it morphed one more time.
Yeah.
For the finale.
I still remember that moment, and this is why this is a good reason to keep the information of the character being the chosen one from them until a strategic moment, because we were at Gen Con one year. And Phil was running a game for a bunch of people that weren't in the regular campaign with other characters on a mission that was going to impact our campaign, but it wasn't actually, with any of the actual players. And during the course of that, he hands me a note, and I forget where the information came to my character. But I got up and I started reading the note. And as the realization hit me, I had to keep walking because it was just so huge. Like I couldn't just stand there with Phil sitting there looking at me as he's running his game and stuff. It was actually a very emotional moment because the impact of the thing that I was chosen for was essentially to be the eternal prison for the big bad evil guy. When we defeated the Demon King, just taking him down wasn't enough. We had to take his essence, his life force essentially, and imprison it, and that was my job. I took it into myself and then held it for the rest of eternity, theoretically.
Right, and then you had to be imprisoned.
And then I had to be imprisoned and guarded in case the Demon King started to get loose from me. So it was this whole thing. And just that moment of finding that information out and understanding what my character had to do, it was wild. It was exciting. It was emotional. It was a great moment for the campaign. And I was like, oh man, if we had gone into this and I had known all along that that was what was going on, and the weight of that moment would have been so like, like,
dude, the amount of effort I would have had to do to keep you alive in the lower levels to make that happen.
Yep.
Like, it was easier. So I told you that in August, and we finished that campaign in November.
Yep.
And I only had to keep you alive for a handful of sessions. And by that point, you were like 16th level or something.
Yeah.
It was pretty hard to die.
Yeah.
In the game, but it was still a concern all the way through.
Yep.
Like, I had to, like, what happens if Kelvin dies?
If Kelvin
like,
goes. Yeah. So
but it was a pretty epic campaign. Like,
Yeah.
it had some big moments in that campaign. And yeah,
Yep.
your original revelation of the vessel was you were to move this glyph of protection. Yeah. You were to move this glyph of protection from one city to another city so that the people of your campaign could basically have a Helm's Deep, I think is what, as players, you asked for, was
want a Helm's Deep.
We need a,
it's like, all right.
yeah. So I was like, okay. So we did a whole story arc about how you had to lift the seal off of the floor of this church, carry it inside of you to the new place. And that was just like a story arc. But then you were always known as the vessel.
Yep.
And then I was like,
we could do better.
Well, I think I had asked you one day, because you had told me one day over lunch about, like, if Kelvin dies, he dies. Like if he dies in fighting the Demon King or whatever, like that, that would be like
he's perfectly willing to go down during the fight if that's how he goes. Like that's a,
and then I just took that a step further and was like, oh, would you like condemn your character to eternity? Like, and it was a pretty emotional scene. Like when everyone else figured out what it meant.
Yeah.
There was like a whole round of goodbyes as everyone said goodbye to you as you got locked into a prison in the mountain.
Yep.
Like, yeah, that was a heavy ending.
Good stuff.
Ooh, I forgot. That was a hell of a game, man.
Yeah.
I'll do mine really quick. I'll try to keep it light because I only remember vague details of it. I did a chosen one in our vampire game in the 90s. I had this Camarilla Sabbat war between Toronto and Buffalo, and needed like a way to kind of end it in one big climax. And I had this whole thing where this Elder Sabbat had this prophecy that he was going to use to end the war, and it involved one of the characters. I think it was our one vampire who had the most humanity because he was actually in love with a human, and he had to actually travel to Sabbat territory. He had to do a couple of things. I think he wound up doing things with different players in order to get all the pieces needed for the for this big climax to work, and it was good. It was tricky. It was tricky, and it definitely had spotlight issues because it did focus heavily on one character, but it was only for a couple sessions, so I just kind of let it. I just let it ride. That like Dan's character was going to be the focus of these last couple sessions, and then once the war stopped, we still kept playing. Like we played the aftermath of the war and all that. So then like Dan just went back to being like just another vampire. Like it was fine. Like he did his bit. He helped end the war, and his reward for that was he got granted progeny. Like he was allowed to sire a vampire, and then that was it. Like it was like he was no more the chosen one or anything else. It was just literally like he was chosen by this elder vampire to kind of finish up, like to bring an end to the war. I don't know if Bob remembers more about it, but Bob's pretty old. Put his earbuds on real quick. Do you remember too much? Like, do you remember the intricacies of what Dan had to do to end the Sabbat War?
Oh Lord, no. I remember it was pretty convoluted.
It's in a notebook written in red gel pen because it's vampire and it was the 90s, so the details were somewhere there. Jer, how about you? I'm gonna sneeze.
It's okay. I had a 3.5 campaign, the one I've talked about before with the Beholder. And I had the players were definitely the chosen ones. We had given them the chosen one prophecy, identified them, the whole thing. And the entire party died in a TPK against the Beholder. And by died, I mean turned to stone and cracked. 4 of them were disintegrated. They were not coming back. We had to kind of rewrite the prophecy to make the new ones applicable. And the players worked hard on that with me. Luckily, I had a copy of Janelle Jackway's Central Casting, and there's a lot of interesting background stuff in there. And so as we re-rolled the new characters and used the Central Casting to kind of pick their backstories, all the players played hard on whatever their background was, finding a way to tie it back into the ongoing campaign and plot, and basically deliberately making themselves another group of chosen ones. And it was a lot of fun. And then they went on to actually complete the prophecy. And the fact the first set of chosen ones died meant that the main villain's first plan succeeded. And now they had to deal with the aftermath of that. So it was a lot of fun. Yeah, we've had a lot of fun with those. Like I said, the after show will tell you a story about one that didn't go as well. But basically just that was a good example of letting the players kind of step in now that they know what the campaign story arc is, and their new characters will be part of the Chosen One story. So that's fine.
Cool. All right, third question. What is a Chosen One story idea that you would like to run or play in?
Yeah, I'm interested in what the subversion of this trope looks like, right? Like, what can you do to mess with this Chosen One idea? So one of the ideas I just had when I was putting the notes together was having a villain show up who's the chosen one, chosen to defeat the team. Prophecy says this guy is here to kick the crap out of you all, that kind of thing. Just mess with some of those tropes, because I think that's fun, right? I like subverting tropes and things like that. Okay. How about you, Jer?
I would love to redo the Chosen Ones died and now you have to deal with the aftermath kind of thing. I kind of love having that sort of thing happen. I've talked about this in other episodes. What do you do when Luke Skywalker gets killed off by the stormtroopers, or when what do you do if Mr. Smith manages to take Neo out?
Yeah.
How do you move on from there? I love those. And especially the aftermath of what happens if you fail. One of the Pathfinder adventure paths, actually most of the early Pathfinder adventure paths, part of book 6 always had, what do you do if the players fail? What happens if the players don't manage to stop the rise of the Rune Lords? What if the Dark Elves do manage to drop a meteor onto the main continent? What do you do if the Firebender manages to actually let loose the 6 brothers of the Tarask? How do you deal with all of those storylines and plot lines? And those are all fun. And then you need another set of Chosen Ones to do something about those. So that's always a neat thing to work with. So, Bob?
Cool. Yeah, much like Phil, subverting the trope is interesting to me. I would like to I think it would be interesting to do, what if this character was chosen to, burn it all to the ground, not save everything, It's what does that really mean, Look through that prophecy, am I the destroyer of worlds? Or is this group destined to basically destroy it all? Is that really what that means? What are we going to do about that? Because then you get into that dance where it's we're trying to avoid the prophecy. And and usually when you try to avoid your destiny, you're stepping squarely into it.
I mean, what if you're the group of people? What if you're the group of people that, the chosen one's going to come and end this age, and you're the rich people benefiting from the age, and you're we really got to stop this chosen one. Give him the wrong prophecy, send him in the wrong direction. What do we do here? To keep this reign, ongoing kind of thing.
Yep. Cool.
I do like the one that Jerry had mentioned, like the heroes all die. I would love one like where that happens and like something like in a like an ETU kind of thing, like the heroes all die and like a bunch of college students find their relic weapons, and in doing so now become the new chosen ones.
Yep.
Right, but they're just like, you know, they're just college teens, like with, you know, with these like relic weapons, and they have little time before the prophecy comes to, before the Dark One descends upon the earth, whatever the prophecy is.
That'd be a lot of fun.
But they're, you know, freaked out because, you know, okay, but I also have a calculus test. Like,
exactly.
Yeah.
Those are the ones that are always fun. What happens when when we are the chosen ones and really don't know what to do because everything's
the reluctant chosen one, right? That's another subversion. You know, what if Frodo was like, "Oh, forget this ring thing," like I'm not leaving town, right? And just like tucks, like I'll just bury the ring in the back, like.
Or Frodo says, "Screw this," and Sam's like, "Well, somebody's got to do it, damn it." So Sam takes it up and he goes, you know, by himself or something.
Yeah, I mean, you have so much fun just messing with the structure's so classic. That messing with it is fantastic. So much fun. There's a lot of room in there.
Wait, we had eagles? So,
yes.
Why didn't you just have the giant eagles fly us over there and drop the thing in the mountain?
Kind of had a falling out with the eagles. Can't.
It wouldn't have been an epic fantasy tale if the eagles just flew them over there on day one.
It's true.
More like a side adventure. Like, what are we doing? Well, you know, we'll just have the eagles bring us over the mountain, throw it in. Oh, all right. Well, we'll do that next session. Cool.
Exactly.
Like, that's the whole thing. Cool. Next session, you guys infiltrate the mountain and throw it in there. Cool.
Yeah.
Just I'll hand wave the how you guys get over to the mountain.
That's right.
So you can tell clearly that Lord of the Rings is meant to be a free league game because you can't skip the travel.
Yeah.
Right? Like that's clearly it was meant to, above everything else it needed to be a free league game.
Yep.
Where travel always matters.
Good times.
Good
As
times.
Always.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that was our look at the chosen one.
Yeah, we hope that if you are thinking about running a chosen one in your game, hopefully chosen ones in your game, that you will put some of our advice to use.
Let's check in with the chat room one more time before we head off to the conversation corner. And of course, as Andy said, Luke gets killed. Guess who becomes the chosen one? Leia. There you go.
Yep.
Twin sister. Boom. Spoiler.
Mm-hmm.
Better sibling. Just saying.
And if Sam had taken the ring, he would have gotten there in half the time. Sam don't fuck around.
Nope.
That's true. Sam wouldn't have messed around with Gollum. He'd have been like, get out of here.
Yeah.
He would have just killed Gollum.
Oh, yeah.
That would have been it.
But of course, there was a prophecy. Gollum had a part to play. It was not necessarily foretold, but excuse me. Gandalf knew, Gollum's got a part to play, and sure enough, you get to the end, and Gollum's got to basically save Frodo from himself by trying to take the ring back because Frodo decides, I've succumbed.
Make your will save. I failed.
Fuck. Now
well,
what?
You're not throwing it in the mountain.
How are we gonna salvage this? We gotta have that ring going. Wait, Gollum. Yeah, there you go.
GM intrusion.
GM
Bite your
intrusion.
finger off.
Gollum comes flying in. Boom! Bite the finger off.
Hey man, GM's got to do what a GM's got to do.
That's right.
That's right.
I think the other thing that we didn't mention, I think we should just bring it up just once, is that games that have hero points, gimme points, whatever, those can often be used by the player and the GM to subvert some of the pitfalls that we've seen. You know,
Oh, yeah.
Oh yeah.
give me a hero point to take care of this. So having those, if you're going to have a game with a chosen one, make sure that you've got a couple of those extra bennies or whatever you want to call them, fate points, can help to push that storyline forward, especially as you come closer to the end game or a scene where the GM realizes, you know, things are starting to go way off base and we need to get everybody, keep everybody alive for a little longer. So,
I mean, in Fate, just throw a card on the table that says the prophecy, drop 4 invokes on it.
Sure,
There you go.
sure. You can do that.
Right? Like, this is the big moment, folks. Like,
And in any of those games that have the currency, if that currency is allowed to be spent on narrative control to establish something narratively in the session, you can also use that on both sides, from the GM and the players, to be like, there was a translation error in the prophecy, and it really means this or whatever. So you can tweak that thing too with those kind of. Why would you want to volunteer to be the chosen one, Andy? You might get, chosen to be like riding a yak in a friggin' frozen wasteland, and why I got to be chosen to go to Tibet? Why can't I be chosen to go to the Bahamas?
Exactly.
Great line.
Only a man whose heart is pure may wield the knife, and only a man whose ass is narrow may fit down these stairs. And if mine is such an ass, then I shall have it.
There it is. You remember the line.
I couldn't think of it before, and then it came to me partway through, and I'm like, I'll save that for later. Oh, man.
Brother Noomsy has forgiven me.
Oh, did we forget She-Ra in our list of chosen ones? Right? Like,
We did.
We mentioned that when we talked about it.
I think we mentioned it. I don't think we put it on the list.
Yeah,
but
I'm not sure if that. I haven't seen all of She-Ra, so I'm not positive that She-Ra qualifies as a chosen one.
Pretty sure Adora counts as.
I'm pretty sure
Adora counts as a chosen one.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure we can safely put Adora on that list.
Yeah.
Well, let's do it.
Yep. Would you consider an Avatar a chosen one?
The guy from Avatar?
The Last Airbender. The Avatar.
I've actually never watched that, so I will leave that to you to decide. Or I should say, I just can't weigh in on it.
Thought argument.
I think you'd like it.
Oh, I'd probably like it. I just, I'm getting better at getting through things. So
yeah, you should put The Last Airbender and The Legend of Korra on your list to eventually.
Oh, hell yeah!
Because they're good stories, and The Legend of Korra is interesting after you've gone through The Last Airbender, and then you get to The Legend of Korra and you see what they've done as they advance the timeline.
Yeah.
And a lot of interesting stuff happens in that show, and it's like, aha, wow, okay, that's interesting.
That's cool.
Okay, well, let's do the thing where we roll on into our conversation corner. All right, so let's see what's been going on with the rest of us. We mentioned Minecraft up above, and we say up above like earlier in the show.
Well, it's up above for us
in the
because
notes.
It's the show notes.
It's
earlier, I think, is how we say it. Earlier, right?
Previously on the Misdirected Mark podcast.
Yeah.
Oh, Andy, yeah, you can do an update on the death count. Because at one point it was like Jerry 5 and pretty much everybody else none. And then some people started catching up. Jerry's got 8, Andy's got 6. Oh no, I've got 5 already. Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, that's about right. Tony's got 2. Rich has 1. There you go. Phil's got 1. That was me. I killed Phil. Or at least I helped.
Little friendly fire accident.
Little friendly fire with the boomerang. I definitely killed Jerry once.
Now, if we had the shurikens, we would have killed each other much faster.
Are shurikens even part of the game now? Or
no, they're from
no, because it's not part of Tinkerers. Although there is a 1/16 Tinkerer, so the next pack we build will have Tinkerers back in it.
Oh, good.
So yeah, Minecraft has been a fun change of pace. Going back to that from Valheim. Valheim is not over. Jerry and I are gonna look at the schedules and pick a day and be like, this is gonna be Valheim Day, and maybe we can do it on the regular, like, you know,
Yep.
like every Wednesday or something. I don't know. I'm just throwing it. Not specifically
Wednesday. Wednesday is a good day, just not this Wednesday.
Yeah.
So
that'll be a thing, but yeah, as I mentioned above, Minecraft and Lego brick therapy has been nice for kind of mellowing me out. A lot of condo hijinks going on. It's just like the hot water tank that's shared between my unit and the next door unit was making this god awful hammering noise, this thumping, like somebody was banging on it with a friggin' rubber mallet, and it's just all through the night over the weekend. And I'm like, what is going on? Finally, a guy comes out and he starts figuring it out. And he's like, oh, I got some bad valves on here. He replaced them, and knock on wood, it's been quiet the rest of the day. But no sooner does he walk out the door to get in his truck, I hear this beeping. And I'm like, what the hell is going on now? So I'm listening, and it's like every 90 seconds, every 2 minutes, there's just this beep. And then finally it dawns on me, I need a new battery for the smoke alarm that was above the door to where the thing is. Turns out it wasn't even a smoke alarm. There were two units. There was a CO detector and a smoke alarm 2 feet from it. And the CO detector, not only the battery died, but the unit was faulty. And the guy that replaced, he just took both of them out and replaced it with a single unit that does both jobs. Brand new with a 10-year quote unquote battery. And so that got taken care of. So that's been quiet again. I've got the guy from Lowe's Installations scheduled for tomorrow morning to come in and finally replace my sliding closet doors and the door to my bedroom.
Nice.
And the door to the laundry room. So all that stuff. And a plumber also to replace a faucet and replace a shower head and stuff like that. So tomorrow's going to be a fun day. Took the day off of work. But there's just been a lot of stuff going on. And then continuing my watch through Community, I'm halfway through season 2, 12, 13 episodes in. The animated Christmas episode was ridiculously fun. I was like, what is going on here? This is stop motion animation. And then it's like, oh, it's a special Christmas episode. That makes sense. Okay. But yeah, what a dysfunctional family those people are in that show. But a family nonetheless. You know, found family is the way it's at, the way of the world. Found family is where it's at.
Agreed.
And I guess that's about it for me. Jerry, what do you got?
Well, Minecraft for me as well. I had a bit of an incident where when we spawned, the thing that everybody else started with, mine had a glitch in it. So I started out with not really a house or any gear, and which is part of how I died the first couple times. Just I was stumbling around. But my favorite part of Minecraft is the exploration. So I've spent the last 3 nights watching TV and at the same time just wandering way out in the wilderness. I didn't realize how far my new village is from base camp. I guess I'm 4,000 blocks from base camp. And then I went another 12,000 blocks across the northern wilderness, picking up resources and bringing them back to the party. So I'm just having a good time. And Chris got on last night and kind of helped us out, and Andy got on last night, and we did some exploration and found pumpkin patches, and just Minecraft's a lot of fun because it's got different things from people. If you just want to go out and hunt and kill stuff, there's plenty of bad guys to fight. If you want to build super technological stuff like Phil and Tony the Rainmaker do, you can get into all sorts of creations and machines and things like that. And even though we've kind of spaced ourselves out a lot more than we have in some of the past ones, people are still sharing things. I mean, Tony built some ridiculously complicated mechanical stuff, and then immediately, as he always does, hey everybody, I just did this thing, come and use it all you want. he's got resources, and he's always had this theory of, just if I've got it and you need it, just take it and I'll make more. And it seems to be one of his favorite things. So it's just been a lot of fun. And after that, I did a little bit of Lego. I've been building some smaller sets, some cars and things along that line that I picked up. I ended up getting 2 Lego Friends buildings that are the same building, so I want to make them into an actual full 3D building instead of just a half side thing. So I'm going to be working on some projects on that. I watched Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark, which I've never read the children's books, but I thought it was perfectly fun, PG-13 kind of horror movie, and a lot of fun. This is my bachelor week. My wife is on vacation for the next week and a half, so I'm sitting here at home by myself. So I'm getting a lot of TV time in and things like that, and fending for myself for food, which has been less cooking and more takeout. And last 2 things I did is I've been catching up with Psych, and I also forgot I watched the new Mortal Kombat movie that came out, and it was much better than I expected. It was a lot of fun, decent fight sequences, a decent plot. If you enjoyed the first Mortal Kombat movie, this is like that, but with a better plot and with better action sequences. They really set the tone. And there's a couple of chosen ones. And actually, all the good guys in that's a party of chosen ones, literally, that become the Mortal Kombat thing. It is gory. It's much bloodier than any of the previous ones were. It's bloody like the game is. A lot of the characters don't survive the movie. I was surprised at how many of the characters die in the movie, which was kind of interesting and fun. But I guess also there's got to be like 50 now Mortal Kombat characters, so that works fine.
Yeah, there you
All
go.
right. So that was me. I just had a lot of fun just watching a bunch of stuff this week. Phil, how you doing?
Well, I mean, it felt better. I played a little bit of Minecraft. I've actually been like a little too tired to play this week, just from not feeling well. So I'm not very far into the game at this point. I got a lot of stuff I can do in the game that I just haven't done yet. I did finish season 8 of The Blacklist that dropped like a week or 2 ago. I finished it off. It hints at a really cool theory about who Raymond Reddington is. One that I hope that they embrace. They've hinted towards it enough that I think that I would be very happy if that's the way it goes. I don't want to spoil it for anyone, but I was, if it is the answer, it's pretty impressive. So I would like it to be that. I played some Horizon Zero Dawn on the PS4. That game's amazing. Geez, that's a really fine game. Like just, I did some hunting, some crafting. It's gorgeous. Like the game's just like, it's visually gorgeous. Looks great on my TV. So yeah, I've been playing a little bit of that. That was fun. And then I needed something lighter because, as I said earlier, I got upset watching the Squid Game. So I started watching The Good Place.
I've heard a lot of good things about that.
And so far enjoying it. I'm in season 1. I'm almost at the end of season 1. It's quite enjoyable. The characters are really good. This is the best older Ted Danson. I didn't like him so much on CSI, but like he's great on this show. He's quite funny. But yeah, it looks good. I'm gonna just kind of watch that. It's a lighter watch. I've been laying on the couch for the last couple of days because I just haven't really had the energy to do very much. So I went back and watched some DS9 the other night, and I've just been like watching like random TV stuff. I was watching some How I Met Your Mother episodes because
Nice.
there's those are immortal. I just watched last night the one where Marshall's dad dies, and that is like, I mean, one, it's such an excellently crafted episode with the countdown all through it. But the other thing I heard, and I forget where I read this, I thought I read it somewhere on the internet, was they didn't tell Jason Segel, the actor, like they didn't tell him the last line when Lily gets out of the car and tells him the news.
Ooh.
Like he just ad-libs that.
Wow.
But yeah, I watched that episode. Like it's a hard episode to watch, but it's like so it's so, it's just it goes to the writers of that show. Like
Yes.
the writers of that show were capable of telling amazing stories in a 22-minute sitcom format.
Yep.
I mean, from very funny to touching, like they were able to pull all those things off. And so I can forever watch How I Met Your Mother. I always enjoy that. But yeah, I just, like I said, since Sunday, I've spent a good deal of time flopped onto my couch because sitting up was hard. I did get a gift the other day. Senda sent me a new blanket, a very cool Millennium Falcon blanket.
Nice.
That is now on my couch, replacing the blanket I had on the couch with the cool Millennium. When you guys come over next time, you'll see it.
Mm-hmm.
And then and Bob blew up our Sunday game. So it's fine. It's the way of it's the way it goes. Bob was like, we haven't, not feeling it.
Yeah,
We've started the dance to discuss the next game.
Yep.
It's tricky. It's tricky. I really like iHunt. There's nothing wrong with iHunt as a game whatsoever.
It's a fine game.
It's a little intense.
Yeah.
And I'm starting to wonder if what that group needs is something less intense. Like maybe we need something a little funnier. I'm not sure. I'm not sure what the magic.
Yeah, I don't know if necessarily funnier or just lighter. Because you could do like just for an example, because you're not really into fantasy is a huge favorite of yours.
No, me.
Let's say if we decided to do some kind of epic fantasy type of thing, it's not light, but it's not super intense.
Hopeful, I think, is the word. Maybe
hopeful is probably a good word. There's a bunch of different ways we can go, and I'm sure we'll.
I mean, that's something. I'm not going to, I'm not offering up Twilight 2000 to that group.
Yeah, I don't think I don't think that'd be a good fit right now.
No, Twilight 2000, I think, is going to be the game I offer up after we finish Night's Black Agents. But we're not even close to the end of Night's Black Agents, so
no, we got a ways to go on that one.
We got ways to go on Night's Black Agents. Which is why I said I'm going to get Twilight 2000 and just go put it up on a shelf for a while. It's fine. That game can sit. I don't know. I don't know what the next. I don't know what the next game is for that group. Like, I threw out a few ideas. They were all lighter in classic Ghostbusters from West End Games.
Yep.
A few other things. I'm interested to see what people are drawn towards, because I love running for you guys, and I'm down for whatever. Like, as long as I find it mild, as long as I find it interesting to run, I'm not terribly picky. But yeah, I don't know. We're gonna need some suggestions, because we're gonna need some ideas, because it's not like I have a huge backlog of things that I'm like, oh, I got to get these to the table. I have a huge backlog of games. I don't have a huge backlog of games right now that I'm like, I got to get these to the table. Like, I have some games that I'm like, someday I'm going to play this game.
Yeah.
But not necessarily right away. Like, I really need to kind of, part of it is we really just kind of need to figure out what itch we're trying to scratch.
Yep.
And I don't think we did wrong with iHunt. I thought iHunt was perfectly good. I think we all liked it. But the game's definitely it's a horror game on two levels, right? There's the horror of capitalism, which is the thing that is a theme throughout it. And Tony definitely did. And I think Tony had some problems with the we murder things for money, even though they were monsters.
A little rough in that area, yeah.
Yeah. So
yeah, the one game I played, you find yourself wanting to come to some sort of nonviolent and resolution, and you can't do that. That's not what this game is about.
That's not what the game's about. That's the hard part to the it's the other hard part to the game is that you would like to solve this problem some other way, but you are being paid to murder your way through this problem. And it creates a very uncomfortable especially in our group, it creates an uncomfortable edge. Our group is not that particular group does not always solve problems with a sword.
Yeah.
Right.
So I really don't know yet. I mean, I'm going to go through a whole bunch of my games and just kind of look for some other potential candidates.
Yeah. I don't know the idea could fit into a lot of different systems, and then we should probably jump into the end.
Yeah.
But it might be a fun idea with that group to explore the unwitting group chosen ones concept.
Yeah. I just have to find the right game.
All of the regular chosen ones are all dead now, and now we are it. Like, uh-oh. But yeah, I mean, what that would fit into, I don't know.
I've said before that group does exceedingly well when there is a mix of something normal and something extraordinary.
Yes.
Like having a regular life plus having an extraordinary thing is a combo that almost always works. Works with this group. So yeah. I don't know what the answer is yet. I'm gonna, like I said, I'm gonna go exploring.
I'm sure we'll
looking through some
Facer Marvel.
Yeah, I mean, superheroes game, like,
yeah,
but Space Rip Marvels, I don't know, like Masks worked really well for them.
Yeah.
Like Masks was an extraordinarily good fit for them because it was less about superhero stuff. I mean, there was plenty of superhero stuff
between people with some superhero stuff.
Yeah. Like those things went off exceedingly well. Yeah, I'm not sure yet. Yeah. I was looking at because somebody was talking about Face Rip the other day. Oh, I saw it on TikTok. Somebody put it up. Have you played Face Rip? And I was like, whoa, not in a while.
Yeah.
Like, so anyway, maybe we should roll out.
So that means it's time for the Patreon shout outs. So thank you very much to Savannah Sizer, Steve Bissonette, Steve Radabaugh, T. Acoustic, who once again is in the Minecraft server and doing some very interesting construction. A kind of a Great Wall kind of a thing going on over there by the...
I saw that from the map. I was like, what the hell is that? I had to go fly over and take a look at it.
I haven't seen that one yet.
Theodore
Atkinson. You can't miss it. You can't miss it on the map. It's huge.
Tom Hay, Victor Wyatt, Ryan Magala, Matthew Schrader, and Noah Bond. And thanks to everyone for listening tonight.
Whew. If you are free on Tuesday evenings at 8 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. the Queen's Time, come join us live on Twitch where you can chat with other listeners in the awesome chat room for life and ask us the occasional question.
If you can't make the live show, check out our podcast each week wherever you get your podcasts. And take a listen to some of the other shows in the Misdirected Mark Network, such as The Super Geek, Mastering Dungeons, Bone Sword and Obsidian, The FM Gamers, Panda's Talking Games, The Gnome Cast, Jangu Hustle, The Lounge, Bonus Experience, and back episodes of She's a Super Geek. You can and should also check out our sibling podcasts, Tabletop Bellhop, The Knights of the Night, and the always amazing Gaming MPS.
Just before you confront the prophecy to save the world, you should leave us some feedback, especially in case you die. You can reach us directly on the old-fashioned emails at mmp@misdirectedmark.com. Check us out on the Twitters. The show and the network is at MisdirectedMark. He's Robert M. Everson. He's GM Gerrymander. I am DNA Phil.
If you like what we do here and on the other shows in the Misdirected Mark Network, you can support our Patreon campaigns. MMP, Mastering Dungeons, and Panda's Talking Games are at patreon.com/MMP. Jangu Hustle is at patreon.com/Jangu Hustle, and Bonus Experience is at patreon.com/Bonus Experience. Patrons of MMP, Mastering Dungeons, and Panda's Talking Games get access to the after show, pre-production show notes, musical parodies, the Bamboo Lounge, and other special releases.
This has been a Misdirected Mark production, the media arm of Encoded Designs. Mic drop.
We out.